I have had Barry Patterson for 20 years. When he was 5 years old, the child said in a baby voice, "Brother, hug me, I'm scared." At the age of 25, this guy panted ambiguously, "Brother, I just rub it, not in." Damn it, it's Tiangang. Barry sneaked into my bed again. I was woken up by the sun early in the morning and pushed the head that was rubbing against my chest. Go away, you are so old, why do you still want to sleep in my arms?" Barry mumbled drowsily, "I was on night shift last night. I'm so sleepy. Brother, let me hold you for a while longer." Seeing how tired he looked, I didn't have the heart to wake him up. Barry and I are not related by blood, but I spoil him to death. Forget it, the second bedroom is just a decoration anyway, and I haven't changed the sheets in 2 months. Just as I was about to get up and get out of bed, Barry grunted, turned over and pressed down on my legs. "Don't go, let's sleep together." Flesh touched flesh, and I froze suddenly. Barry is at the age of full of vigor and vitality. Although I am 10 years older than him, I am still as smart and energetic as ever. It's so early in the morning, who hasn't reacted yet? But it was a bit awkward to react at the same time as my brother. Barry was so stupid that he came closer to me with his eyes closed and rubbed against me. I slapped him awake and asked, "What are you doing?" Barry stared with his eyes half opened, his long eyelashes fluttering, his face looking innocent. "I'm just rubbing it, what's wrong, brother?" "What else?" I raised my fist as if to hit him. "Is this what 2 men should do? You are already 25 years old, aren't you ashamed?" Barry shrank his neck, pursed his lips and looked at me resentfully for a while, then suddenly lowered his eyes and sobbed softly. "I see. You despise me and you are unwilling to satisfy such a small matter. Do you not want to support me anymore?" He lifted the quilt and put on his shoes slowly with red eyes. "Then I'll just leave. Do you think I want to stay here and be a burden? But it's my fault that I don't have a home of my own." I almost laughed at Barry's teasing look. The dispute between him and I is a long story. When I was 15, my alcoholic father drove drunk and got into a car accident, killing a young couple. The old man kicked his legs and died, leaving the mess to me who had just been admitted to a key high school. Our family was extremely poor. My mother had run away with someone a long time ago and we couldn't afford the compensation. I went to their house with a bitter face and begged for reconciliation. When we arrived at the victim's home, we saw a group of gossipy people arguing over how to divide the property. All the furniture and electrical appliances were moved out, even the cooking pots and trash cans were not spared. The whole family was clean, with only one child left. Barry was only 5 years old at the time. He curled up and hugged himself, hiding under his parents' wedding photo. He was trembling with fear, but he kept a straight face and said nothing. I scratched my head, feeling indescribably uncomfortable. "Sorry." I swallowed hard. "I am the family member of the perpetrator, but I don't have the money to compensate you." Barry stared at me warily, like a lonely little animal. His eyes were red and tears were welling up in his eye sockets. I squatted down and negotiated with him in a gentle voice. "I'll write you an IOU and pay you back in installments when I make money later, okay?" The child didn't speak and seemed unable to understand what I was saying. I looked around awkwardly and changed the question. "Who will support you in the future? How about I discuss it with them?" The child's mouth pursed and tears started to fall. He sobbed, "No one wants me. I have no home." My throat choked and I looked towards the door. "Weren't those people your relatives?" A string of tears hung on Barry's eyelashes, and his little hands wiped his eyes hard. "My aunt and uncle are here to sell my house. After they divide the money, they might even sell me off as well." I was stunned. "That's not possible. Human trafficking is against the law." The child suddenly rushed over and grabbed my finger, saying fiercely, "It's all your family's fault. You have to be responsible for me." I was stunned and subconsciously tried to shake it off. I am still a minor myself, and I don't even have enough food to eat. How can I raise a child? But the next moment, Barry softened his voice, raised his tearful face, and grabbed the corner of my clothes pitifully. "Brother, please take me away." It was a clear day with bright sunshine. I felt dizzy under the scorching sun. There was a child in my arms out of nowhere. I really don't know how I managed to get through all these years. Barry was weak when he was a child and was sick every now and then. I attended classes at school during the day and had to rush back home after school to stay with him in the hospital while he received an 4-drip. In order to supplement the family income, he would get up before dawn and snatch plastic bottles and cardboard boxes from the trash cans from the rag pickers. After finishing my homework during the winter and summer vacations, I did work for my neighbors to build good relationships with them and shamelessly asked them to help me pick up Barry from school. I applied to be a day student in high school and I didn't dare live on campus in college. Because Barry is timid, he has to let me hold him to sleep at night. This hug lasted for 20 years. After moving from the tube-shaped building to the teacher's apartment, I became a high school class teacher, and Barry grew up and became the youngest attending physician. But at night, if I don't let him get into bed, this kid will start to cry and act pitiful. Who can stand seeing such a pretty girl crying? I was held by him again, and I lay down helplessly again and rolled Barry back with the quilt. Okay, stop crying, just rub it if you want. Barry immediately smiled brightly, stretched out his long arms, and hugged me tightly. After he finished making a fuss, I went to the bathroom to take a shower and then fried 2 dishes and put them on the table. I'm going to be out for a while this afternoon. When you get up, you can reheat it in the microwave. Barry looked satisfied, rubbing his eyes against the pillow. Where did you go? Children should stay out of the adult business. I hummed a song as I slipped into the second bedroom and stealthily opened Barry's closet. A new English teacher has been transferred to the school. He is about the same age as me. The vice principal wants to bring us together, so we have an appointment to meet at noon this afternoon. My leader arranged for me to go, so I had to go, and I couldn't dress too sloppily. But my clothes were really not presentable to others. In the first few years when I became a teacher, students from every class confessed their love to me, both boys and girls. I was so scared that my soul left my body. I asked other teachers for advice and made myself more and more slovenly. When I stood on the podium, no one could tell whether I was the head teacher of the senior class or an old man who collected waste. Now is the critical moment. I can only borrow my brother's clothes. The shirt was fine, but Barry's pants were too long, so I had to dig out the trousers I wore when I was looking for a job the year I graduated. Fortunately, I'm not fat, so I can still wear the clothes. I packed up and went out, and met my English teacher Barbara at the hotel. She is a very gentle person, quiet and pretty. For the past 20 years, I have been busy going to school and raising Barry. I have never thought about personal issues and have no experience in love. I suddenly went on a blind date and I didn't know what to do with my hands and feet. I was so nervous that my brain went blank. After taking a sip of tea to build up my courage, I started to chat awkwardly. Hi, Teacher Barbara. Have you eaten? Barbara Long was stunned, looked at the dishes that had just been ordered on the table and said blankly, Aren't we eating? I laughed. Yes, look at my memory, huh? I was so embarrassed that sweat broke out on my forehead. I was racking my brains to think of something to say when I turned around and suddenly saw a group of students fighting outside the window. Still in my class. These little bastards. Finally, I found an excuse to escape. I rushed out in a rage and grabbed one of them by the ear. What are you doing? Have you finished your math test? And you dyed your hair? You didn't leave enough homework, did you? The man hissed in pain, turned his head and glared at me fiercely. Who are you? They were all new faces. Not only the students in my class were fighting, but also some young guys from the technical school next door. When the people in the class saw me, they immediately straightened their backs and felt like they had a backer. Our homeroom teacher. They were the first to start it. Before I could say anything, the yellow-haired guy sneered. Homeroom teacher? He looked me up and down and pinched my face. How old are you? You dare to pretend to be a teacher just by wearing glasses? Do you think you can scare me? Brothers, fuck him. What a bunch of bastards. I couldn't really fight with the students, so I dodged their fists and gestured to the students in the class. Run, find the police. Who dares to call the police? The yellow-haired boy pounced on me and started tearing me apart. I stood in front of the student and was pushed hard by him, falling on my butt on the curb. There happened to be some exposed steel bars on the side of the road, and with a click sound, the poor quality trousers were instantly scrapped. My scalp was numb and a piercing pain spread from an indescribable place to every part of my body. Fortunately, the police station was not far away, and the police rushed over and took the yellow-haired guys away. Barbara pretended to help me up and asked worriedly, "Teacher Wade, are you okay?" My butt is exposed from my crotch, how can I dare to get up? I quickly forced a smile and waved my hand, "It's okay." He also sternly warned the students, "Don't forget to do your homework when you go home. I will check on you guys before school starts." The student was so filled with guilt that he burst into tears, and he ran away as soon as he heard this. I sat on the floor for a long time and apologized to Barbara. "I'm sorry, I messed up this meal. Let's make another appointment and I'll make it up to you, okay?" Barbara looked at me, seemed to want to say something but hesitated, and finally smiled politely. "Let's talk later, Mr. Wade, you should recover first. Do you need to be sent to the hospital?" When I saw her expression, I knew there was no hope, but I felt inexplicably relieved. "No need, my brother is a doctor, just let him help me." I called Barry and said shakily, "Come and pick me up. I can't stand up." The sound of a chair being overturned was heard from the phone. Barry's voice was anxious and sharp. "What happened? Where are you?" I said bitterly, "It's nothing, my butt is bruised. Please bring a pair of pants with you when you go out, brother." Barry. Barbara waited with me for a while until Barry found me on the curb, and then she left with peace of mind. As I watched Teacher Barbara walk away, I was suddenly kicked in the butt. Barry looked down at me and said, "Stop looking at me and get up." I wailed in pain. "Will I come back to you if you can get up? Come here and give me a hand." I reached out my hand to him, and Barry laughed, put his arms under my armpits, bent down, picked up my knees, and picked me up like a princess. I was startled and struggled hard. "Hey, Teacher Barbara hasn't gone far yet." It was embarrassing enough as it was, and if Barbara saw a grown man like me being carried away, I would be so embarrassed. Tisk. Barry pressed my face against his chest. "She can't see you, crotchless teacher." I booked a room in a small hotel nearby. I lay on the bed, and Barry helped me take off my blood-stained pants, frowning. "Fortunately, it's just a superficial wound, but the disinfection will be very painful, so bear with it." Even though I was mentally prepared, when the cotton swab touched the wound, I still let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. "It hurts. It hurts." "Be gentle," Barry sneered. "Now you feel the pain, aren't you quite capable when you're trying to be a hero?" Hiss, how did I know that yellow-haired guy would dare to attack the teacher? I gasped and pointed at my face, saying in disbelief. He also pinched my face and asked me how old I was. Children nowadays are too lawless. Barry looked at me, then at the pink t-shirt I had secretly worn when he was in school, with an inexplicable look in his eyes. "You look so good in college dressed like this, it's normal for you to admit your mistake." He lowered his voice and asked faintly, "Brother, do you like wearing my clothes?" I fell silent instantly and touched my nose guiltily. "Well, mine is still wet after I washed it, so I'd like to borrow yours." "Oops, I'll return it to you when I get home." "No need to pay it back." Barry sat on the edge of the bed, resting his palm on my back, feeling along my spine all the way to my coccyx. I was startled when I heard him say, "It looks good. I have a lot of shirts. Do you want to wear them?" The skin that was touched shuddered. I always feel something is weird, but I can't tell what's wrong. "No need." I sighed. "I don't need to wear your clothes anymore. The blind date failed. Brother, I don't need to pretend to be young anymore." Barry was still a little disappointed. He squeezed out the ointment, spread my buttocks apart, and applied it to the wound. "Is there a teacher's dinner today? Are you familiar with Teacher Barbara? She seems to care about you." "Not familiar." I lay on the pillow and told the truth. It wasn't a dinner party, it was just me and her, a blind date, and the result was ah. Barry dipped his finger in the ointment and poked it into my but without any mercy, looking at me with a sinister look. "Blind date?" I screamed in pain and twisted my butt around. "Get out. Get your hands out first." Not only did Barry not leave, He even scratched the wound with his fingers. "Brother, do you want to get married?" I couldn't think anymore, my face flushed, and my hands were tightly grasping the sheets. "Barry, stop it." Barry dipped some more ointment and rubbed circles around the wound with his fingertips. "Answer me, brother." I wanted to cry but I couldn't. "Stop it." The blind date failed. I won't marry anyone. Barry finally let me go, wiped his hands, and gently wiped off the overflowing white ointment with a cotton swab. I collapsed on the bed, sweating in pain, like a dead fish that had just been pulled ashore. "King want to hurt me to death?" Barry put away the medicine box, helped me put on my pants again, and patted my waist. His voice was low and hoarse. "Brother, isn't it enough to have me accompany you?" I took a breath and gave him a cold look. "Can you be the same as my wife?" "My wife can sleep with me and live with me. What can you do?" Barry took off his shoes and lay down on me, with his arms around my waist. "Don't I sleep and live with you every day?" Two different things. I turned over and lay on my side facing him, teaching him about the adult world. Sleeping with your wife is not just sleeping. You have to do something in bed. You can even have a baby after sleeping with her. Can you do it? Barry winked, and the hand on his waist slid down to my belly, kneading it. "I can't, but maybe you can. You have to believe in miracles." "Get out." I slapped his hot paws away. "You can say such things. Are you worthy of the white coat you wear?" Barry laughed and hugged my waist tightly, burying his head in the crook of my neck. "Brother, I don't want to be separated from you." I placed my palms on his shoulders and sighed silently. All these years I was so busy making a living that I forgot to teach Barry what a normal life trajectory was. How can an elder brother and a younger brother be together forever? Even if I remain single all my life, he will have his own family sooner or later. Sooner or later, the little bird's wings will grow full, and it will fly away from the nest and head towards its own sky. All I can do is let go. I started asking my acquaintances to find a suitable girl for Barry. I am 25 years old, a grown man. I can't keep following my brother around all the time. I worry about Barry, and the vice principal worries about me. After asking about the last situation, give me some advice. Barbara is my eldest sister's daughter. She has been smart and pretty since she was young and has many suitors. Wade, I introduced you because I saw that you are honest and a real person. You can't miss such a good opportunity. He asked me to go to the mall and buy a bracelet at the counter to give to Barbara as a formal apology. Then I persuaded Barbara to buy some nutritional supplements and come to visit me. "Teacher Wade, are you feeling better?" I squeezed my still aching buttocks together, feeling flattered. "It's just a minor injury, it's healed already." "Oh, come if you want, what else do you want?" I rubbed my hands together, feeling uneasy. Barry was not at home today as he was seeing patients, so I could not find any reinforcements. The vice principal winked at me, and I simply dived into the kitchen and showed off my skills. "Teacher Barbara, my cooking skills are really good. I can make up for the meal I had last time." Barbara was quite surprised to see the sumptuous meal on the table. She tasted it and praised it highly. It makes me feel embarrassed. Well, my Barry is a picky person. He forced me to become a cook. Haha. Barbara pursed her lips and smiled. "Fine." The vice principal immediately struck while the iron was hot and worked hard to promote me. "It's not just cooking, Wade probably did it. He raised his brother by himself, he can work and earn money to support the family, he can do everything. Living with him, I don't have to worry about anything." My face turned red and I rubbed my trouser legs embarrassedly. "Don't praise me, I'm not that good." The vice principal patted me on the shoulder. "Don't be modest." He looked at Barbara again and said earnestly, "You are already not young anymore. Where can you find someone as honest and simple as Teacher Wade? Wade is just a little slow in talking, but he has no problem teaching and he teaches key classes every year. From now on, you can help Nancy with her English and Wade with her math. We don't have to worry about her grades. Isn't this better than enrolling her in extracurricular classes?" I was stunned. "Child?" Barbara raised her head and whispered, "Nancy is my daughter." I opened my mouth and was stunned. Subconsciously looked at the vice principal. Such a big thing, but you didn't tell me about it in advance. The vice principal avoided my gaze, smacked his lips, and explained. Barbara divorced because her ex-husband was a piece of shit, he was drunk and violent, but she herself had no problems. Nancy will soon start primary school. She is a very sensible and well-behaved child. You don't need to worry about her. As soon as I moved my lips, the vice principal held my shoulders. Wade, you are still young, it won't be difficult to have a child of your own, you should think about it carefully. He turned to Barbara again. Think about it again. Don't keep putting it off. The older you get, the harder it will be to find someone. Your aunt is getting so worried. What are you so anxious about? The door of the house suddenly opened, and Barry stood at the door holding a birthday cake box. He glanced at the three people at the dining table, and finally his eyes fell on me. Brother, why didn't you tell me that there were guests at home? There was an inexplicable chill in his voice, and my heart skipped a beat. I stood up hastily and went to meet him. Aren't you supposed to be seeing patients? Why did you come back early? Barry lowered his eyes and looked at me and whispered, Today is your birthday. I switched shifts with someone else and wanted to give you a surprise. After saying this, he glanced at Barbara and curled his lips in self-mockery. It was quite a surprise. I took the cake box and my heart felt warm. Even I forgot when my birthday was, but Barry still remembered it. Come in, are you hungry? The food is getting cold. I'll cook you some new food later. I helped him get his slippers and took off his bag and hung it on the wall. The vice principal kept looking over here and frowned. Wade, is this your brother? I was about to answer when the vice principal continued. Why did I remember that you two were not brothers? And you still live together? Barry paused, and when he looked up his expression was cold. What do you mean? The vice principal waved his hand. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to sow discord. But your brother is about to get married, and you'll also have a girlfriend in the future. It's not convenient for two brothers to live in the same house. I paused, a surge of anger rising to the top of my head. I have spent so much time and effort to raise this baby in my hands for so many years, is it my turn to find him an eyesore? I held back my anger and interrupted him. Vice principal, I think this is quite convenient. In my heart, Barry is like my own brother. Even if I get married, it won't affect our relationship. As for how we live, that's our private matter. It's too early to talk about it now. The vice principal was not very happy and wanted to say something else, but was stopped by Barbara. Uncle, it's Teacher Wade's birthday today. We didn't bring any gifts, so please don't bother us anymore. Okay. The vice principal stood up and kept giving me instructions before leaving. Wade, marriage is a major event in life, you should think more about yourself. I maintained my last bit of politeness, curled my lips, and closed the door. As soon as I turned around, I was suddenly pressed against the door panel. Barry's eyes were red, and he looked like a poor puppy about to be thrown away by his owner. She asked me in a hoarse voice, Brother, will you chase me away? I was stunned and held the back of his hand. What the hell? Of course not. Barry yelled. Then why are you still going on a blind date? You invited the person to your house, but you kept it a secret from me? Are you waiting until you are getting married and planning to inform me at the wedding? I rubbed my ears, my mind was in a mess. Don't yell, there's no sign of my marriage, why would I get married? But you have this plan, don't you? Barry's eyes were getting redder and redder, and tears came and fell like beads. I wiped his eyes helplessly. Look at you, why are you still crying? Barry brushed my hand away and glared at me with a hurt look on his face. When you have your own little family, you won't have the heart to care about me anymore. From now on, my weight in your heart will become less and less important, until I am completely forgotten. Brother, I'd rather leave on my own. Why? Before I could stop it, the door slammed and almost hit my nose. Barry ran away from home. Why is this little bastard so angry? He didn't go home to sleep for several days, didn't answer the phone, didn't reply to messages, and was determined to ignore me. I tossed and turned in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep. I sat up and scratched my head in annoyance. No, I didn't recruit him. Isn't it just a blind date and a meal? I'm already this age, it should be normal. What is he angry about? The more I thought about it, the more something seemed wrong. Mainly because I couldn't sleep well without someone in my arms. It was the weekend and Barry was seeing patients, so I made an appointment with the internal medicine department and went straight to the hospital. Barry can be a little petty and not see his brother. But Barry can't be in a bad mood and refuse to see the patient. I pushed open the door of the clinic and rushed over, but saw a circle of interns standing in the room, watching closely. I had no choice but to sit on the chair, move closer to Barry, and lower my voice. Barry, when are you coming home? I'll make you something delicious. As a result, this kid was very serious and didn't even look at me. Wait up. What's wrong? I choked. Don't you know what's wrong with me? Barry's face was expressionless and businesslike. If you don't cooperate, I can't treat this disease. I sucked my back teeth and said, okay, the wound on my butt hasn't healed yet, it still hurts a little. Barry didn't even raise his head. Then you have the wrong number. Go upstairs and turn left to the anorectal department. Next one. Why? I quickly stopped him and made up a story. Barry, I have a stomachache. Is this an internal medicine disease? Barry remained expressionless. Well, when did it start? How long has it been hurting? The tone was chilly, without any warmth at all. Why was this child so hard to comfort? I cheekily whispered, since the day my brother ran away from home, I've been thinking about him. Barry finally looked up at me with a forced smile. Lie down on the bed, I'll check you out. Barry's hands came up and pressed on my abdomen. Does it hurt here? Change the place. Here? Ouch, that really hurts. I was so scared that I immediately hugged his hands. Damn it, I'm not really sick, am I? Barry looked serious and stared straight into my eyes, which made my hair stand on end and sweat pour out. His eyebrows suddenly curved. Brother, how long has it been since you last pooped? Holy shit. The young interns next to them burst out laughing. My face turned from white to red, and then from red to green, a colorful array. You naughty boy, why are you yelling like that? Barry pulled me up from the examination bed with a smile in his eyes. Okay, brother, I'll prescribe some laxatives for you. Let's go now and don't take up medical resources. I walked to the door with the prescription and turned to look at him hesitantly. Barry understood and said softly, I'll go home after get off work. 7. In the evening, I bought a lot of vegetables and hummed a song while stewing Barry's favorite tomato beef brisket in the kitchen. There was a slight jingle of keys at the door and footsteps approaching. Suddenly, a pair of strong arms wrapped around my waist, and Barry rested his chin on my shoulder. Brother, it smells so good. I fed him a mouthful of food with my backhand. It's better to stay at home. Children with me are like treasures. Don't run away from home so easily in the future. Barry was eating his meat, his nose still buried in the back of my neck. His hot and humid breath made me itchy, and I pushed him away with a smile. Get out of the way and get a bowl of rice. After eating and washing, Barry wiped the water off his hair with a towel. I pinched his face and touched him all over. You've lost weight. I grumbled distressedly. Why do you have such a bad temper? You've lost all the weight after staying in the duty room for a few days. Barry squeezed my hand. Brother, stop touching me. His voice was a little hoarse, so I took my hand back and said unhappily, Is it not okay to just touch you? Who was it that shamelessly asked me to hold you in my arms when I slept? Barry said in a veiled tone, Aren't you going to get married? If you get married, you should think I'm in the way, so why are you still touching me? Are you going to make me your mistress? I am so angry that I am speechless. You keep talking nonsense all day long. Why would I dare to marry someone like you? With your ancestor around, how can I dare to do that? Okay, stop thinking about it. It's impossible for me and teacher Barbara to be together. If they don't accept you, I won't accept them either. Although Barry was brought back initially to compensate for the debt. But after all, we raised each other for 20 years, and we depended on each other during the most difficult and tough times. People are all made of flesh and blood, and Barry has long become the most important person to me. Don't worry, no one can drive you away from me. Barry, you are my bottom line. I lay on the bed and lifted a corner of the quilt. Come here, it's time to go to bed. Barry smiled with his lips pursed, and despite his tall stature, he tried hard to get into my arms. Brother, you said that yourself. He wrapped his arms and legs around me, his lips brushed my neck, and as soon as he opened his mouth, his warm breath numbed my skin. You are not allowed to meet with Barbara privately anymore. Neither can other women. Aha. I felt a little dazed as soon as I touched the pillow, and said with a smile, You are too nosy. Do you really want your brother to be single for the rest of his life? Barry rested his forehead against mine. You are not single. You are with me. Isn't this the same meaning? I smiled and said, Okay, I'll do as you say. Barry's voice was filled with joy. You agree. I closed my eyes and couldn't help but curl my lips. When have I ever disagreed with what you said? Barry became excited and hugged me tighter, pressing his thin lips against mine. Probably unintentionally, I dodged back and his palm fell on my lower abdomen again, kneading it gently. I was ticklish and held his hand. Stop touching me. The medicine you prescribed is quite effective. My stomach is clean now. Really? Barry's Adam's apple rolled and his voice was low. Check it for me. How do you check this? Do you have X-ray vision? I smiled and turned over, pressing him underneath. Stop messing around. I have to supervise the morning self-study class tomorrow. Go to bed quickly. After coaxing Barry back, I felt a lot happier unconsciously, and even the students in the class looked better to me. The teachers in the same office joked with me, What is Teacher Wade so happy about? Is he in love? I quickly shook my head. No. They actually didn't believe it. You're too embarrassed to admit it. Look at your blushing face. You can't hide it at all. It made me doubt myself, so I took out a mirror and looked at myself. Really? How come? Knock knock. Barbara stood at the office door and smiled at me. Teacher Wade, are you free tonight? I'd like to treat you to dinner. The people around immediately made faces and looked mocking. I remembered what I promised Barry, but now there were so many people here, and I couldn't embarrass Barbara. I have time. It is indeed better to talk things out face to face. But be careful, do it quickly and don't let Barry see it. This kid is moody now. If he finds out, he will get angry and make trouble for me again. After the last class, I put on a mask, covered my face with my purse, and sneaked straight to the restaurant that Barbara had booked. Teacher Wade, I'm sorry about what happened last time. Don't take my uncle's words to heart. Barbara came to apologize and her tone was sincere, and I didn't want to hold on to it. It's okay. I know the vice principal has no ill intentions. We can understand that we have different opinions. However, I looked at Barbara and said tactfully, although Barry is not my biological brother, he is very important to me. What happened last time made him very uncomfortable and left a thorn in his heart. If we continue dating, it will definitely hurt him, so... Barbara lowered her eyes and smiled softly. I know what you mean. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then I felt like I was being a little too sentimental. Maybe the other person didn't like me anyway. Teacher Barbara, I have heard of your resume. You have been named an excellent teacher many times. The grades of the classes you have taught are very good. Students and parents speak highly of you. You are an excellent person. Even if you are divorced and have a child, this is just a life experience and is by no means a stain. I believe you will meet someone better in the future, or you can live a good life on your own. I really do. Barbara looked up at me and suddenly smiled, this time with a smile in her eyes. Teacher Wade, you are such a wonderful person. She paused and sighed softly, I'm a little envious of your brother. Ah. I opened my mouth blankly, envy him? Barbara smiled with a cunning look in her eyes. If I'm not mistaken, Barry is not your brother. He is actually your love. Before I finished speaking, I suddenly saw a person standing on the side of the road outside the window. Barry! I straightened up stiffly, and the blood in my body ran cold. It's like being absent-minded in class and being caught by the head teacher through the window. I'm sorry, Teacher Barbara. I have something urgent to do and I have to leave right away. Grabbing my bag, I ran out of the restaurant, Barry glaring at me coldly, anger rising in his eyes. I couldn't help but shrink back and stopped in my tracks. Barry, you misunderstood. Let me explain. He grabbed my wrist, pulled it hard, then strode to the intersection and hailed a taxi. Shut up and go home. We rode in silence all the way. The suffocating silence spread in the car, making it hard for me to breathe. Barry looked very strange. I had never seen him so angry. I was indeed in the wrong in this matter. I tried to please him several times, but he ignored me. I staggered after him and was dragged back home. As soon as the door was closed, Barry pushed me against the wall. You clearly promised me that you would no longer meet with Barbara in private. What happened today? Did you go back on your word? Barry is taller than me now. He leans over me and traps me in his arms. It feels extremely oppressive. I swallowed nervously and explained dryly, I was afraid that if I told you, you would start to have wild thoughts again, so… Barry sneered, so you kept it a secret from me. He grabbed my chin and forced me to look up. Brother, do you want to have two relationships at the same time? I looked at him blankly. Huh? Barry, what are you talking about? Playing dumb. Barry frowned with a dangerous look in his eyes. Didn't you agree to be with me? When was there a day when I wasn't with you? I patted his hand. Don't be so sullen. Next time I meet Teacher Barbara, I'll tell you in advance, okay? Wait, how long are you going to play dumb? Barry growled angrily, lowered his head suddenly, bit my lips, and sucked them like a punishment. My eyes widened, too shocked to react. Only when all the oxygen in my mouth was gone did Barry retract his tongue and rub it against my lips, his eyes red. Do you understand now? He was breathing heavily, his whole body pressed on me, his eyes filled with surging and undisguised desire. I no longer consider you my brother. I like you, I want to date you, I want to kiss you, I want to push you on the bed, strip you naked and have sex with you. Is this straightforward enough, brother? With a slap sound, I slapped him hard on the face with my trembling hands. Barry, do you know what the hell you're talking about? Barry's face was hit and tilted to the side, and his handsome cheek quickly became red and swollen. He raised his cheek, swallowed the blood in his mouth, and smiled at me. I know. Wade, I love you. I dare to admit it. Do you dare? Barry cornered me and stared into my eyes. His gaze was like a wolf's, sharp and cold, as if it could penetrate my soul. My eyelashes trembled uncontrollably and I quickly lowered my eyes. What do you want me to admit? For the past 20 years, I have always treated you as my own brother. Heh. Barry chuckled, his tone mocking. The first time I did that to you in the middle of the night. The first time I secretly kissed you in the early morning. Brother, you are awake, right? Barry pressed me hard with every word, leaving me no room to escape. Why do you indulge me? Why don't you resist? Is this something that brothers can do? Wade, look at me. He lifted my chin and whispered against my lips, don't fool yourself. You like me too, right? My heart was pounding like a volcano in my chest. The magma that had been sealed for many years roared and roiled in my heart, burning my internal organs so much that they ached. But there were too many heavy objects blocking the exit, so I could only cover it tightly. Barry, come with me. I pushed his hand away and took his hand to open the door of the second bedroom. There are 2 photo frames on the cabinet, which are pictures of his parents who passed away many years ago. Kneel down and look at them. I held down Barry's shoulders and knelt on the floor with him. Don't forget how you and I met. It was my dad who drove drunk and killed your parents. I raised you just to atone for my sin. You said you like me, the son of a criminal who destroyed your family? Barry, if you fool around with me, how can you face your dead parents in the future? Barry's lips were pursed and his fists were clenched tightly. He was silent for a long time, and the bloodshot in his eyes looked like a red cloud. You said it was your dad who hit the guy. Did you let him drink the wine? Did you let him crash the car? Barry turned around and rolled up my sleeves. Was the scar on your shoulder caused by him burning you with a cigarette butt? Was the stitch on the back of your head caused by him hitting you with a stool leg when he was drunk? We are both victims, so what are you atoning for? He swallowed back a sob and looked at me stubbornly. Brother, I don't accept this reason. I lowered my head, my eye sockets feeling so sore. But we are both men, and I am 10 years older than you. If you stay with an old bachelor like me every day, who knows how others will laugh at you? Barry, you are young and promising, with a bright future. The hard times are over. Wouldn't it be nice to start a family and live a normal life? No. Barry gently held my hand. I just want to be with you. I don't care what others think. But I care. I pushed him away and took a deep breath. Barry, I've been tied to you for 20 years. Do you want to rely on me for the rest of my life? I, Wade, am just an ordinary person who just wants to live an ordinary life. I don't want to be looked down upon by others on the street, nor do I want to be pointed at and gossiped about by others. The road of homosexuality is not as easy as you think. Barry froze, his eyes blank. Brother, do you really think so? I didn't dare look up at his expression, so I wiped my face and stood up. I still have some savings. I'll sell this house and buy 2 smaller ones so we can live separately. Barry said nothing. As I was about to walk out the door, he grabbed my wrist from behind. Don't sell it. We have lived in this house for many years, and every inch of it bears traces of our life together. Barry looked around, fell silent, and walked past me. I'm leaving. I don't know if what I did was right or not. Barry once said that his parents loved him very much. If it weren't for that accident, Barry should have grown up in a warm and happy family, had many good friends, and had a beautiful and innocent love. Instead of losing my family and being forced to live with me in a dark and cramped tube-shaped building, I lived a miserable life of hunger and starvation for so many years. My dad ruined him once, I can't ruin him a second time. Besides, Barry likes me, it's just that I took him away when he was the most helpless in his childhood. After relying on each other for so many years, he confused dependence with love. When he wakes up, he will probably be glad that I didn't agree to his confession. Barry left and didn't come back for a long time. I comforted myself over and over again that I was doing the right thing and it was the best choice for him. But when it was late at night and everyone was asleep, I turned over and touched the cold sheets beside me, and my heart always ached so much that I couldn't breathe. I'm too used to his body temperature. During every sleepless night, I missed him like crazy. On an ordinary evening in late autumn, Barry returned. I maintained the posture of opening the door, staring at him without blinking. His indifferent and somewhat haggard eyes pierced my heart, and it took me a long time to come back to my senses. Come in, have you had dinner? I'll make you something. No, I came to say goodbye. Barry spoke up, looking at me very calmly. There is a difficult infectious disease abroad. The hospital is organizing a medical team to send foreign aid. The flight is tonight. It took me a while to find my voice. Is it dangerous? Do you really have to go? Can you? Barry put his hand on the handle of the suitcase. I volunteered to do this. Even if it's dangerous, someone has to do it. I have no ties, so I'm the right person. He looked at me and smiled. Brother, I won't bother you anymore. Rest assured. The door was closed gently, and no more footsteps could be heard. I slumped down on the sofa, my thinking becoming dull and slow. I pushed Barry away. In order not to embarrass me, he volunteered to go to such a dangerous place. Is this really the result I want? 11. The temperature dropped rapidly, as if winter had arrived overnight. Time passed quickly and it was New Year's Eve in a blink of an eye. I am a lonely person and I don't even know who to call to wish you a Happy New Year. The house was cold and deserted. I looked at the table full of cold dishes and stared blankly at the empty chair opposite me. I had no interest in watching the Spring Festival Gala, so I put down my chopsticks and absent-mindedly scrolled through my phone, searching for news about Barry's country. There are very few reports on infectious diseases and no useful information can be found. I slammed my phone on the table in annoyance, but it suddenly started ringing. My heart skipped a beat. When I saw the familiar name on the caller ID again, I gripped the phone tightly and my trembling fingertips swiped several times before I answered the call successfully. Barry? Are you okay? Every second I waited for a reply seemed infinitely long. The voice that came from the other end was not Barry's. Is this Wade? I'm Barry's colleague. He can't talk right now, but today is Chinese New Year's Eve in China. He missed you so much that he asked me to say Happy New Year to you. Hey, Wade, did I calculate the time correctly? As the clock struck the hour, my mind exploded along with the New Year's fireworks. What do you mean? What do you mean you can't talk? What happened to Barry? Is he infected? The series of questions were so urgent and frequent that the man was confused. No, he just has a problem with his throat. It's a minor problem. Don't worry, brother. Please put Barry on the phone. In the cold winter, I was sweating profusely, unbuttoning my clothes and walking around the living room. Please, I just want to check on his physical condition. The man grunted, Wade, he's really fine. Give him the phone. Barry is unconscious and has a high fever and is receiving 4-drip. I kicked over the chair, furious and helpless. You call this nothing? How long are you going to keep this a secret? Are you going to notify me to go to the funeral after the person dies? After saying that, I felt unlucky and slapped myself in the face. Bah, I was just kidding. The man said helplessly, Wade, I didn't hide it on purpose. It was Barry who didn't let me tell you because he was afraid you would worry. The local situation has been brought under control now. He was not infected. It was caused by excessive fatigue. He has been working non-stop these days to finish the work. He wanted to finish it early and return home. Maybe he could catch up with you to celebrate the new year. Who would have thought? I fell silent, my clenched fists unclenching and unclenching. It's supposed to be a day for family reunion, but now Barry is alone in a foreign country with a high fever and in a coma. I'm thousands of miles away and can't do anything. I have never felt so powerless before. I sniffed and pleaded, Can you give me a more specific address? I want to visit him abroad. My colleague was in a dilemma. No, there are strict safety management measures in place. Family members cannot enter without approval and permission. You should just stay at home and wait. I pinched my eyebrows and my eyes ached. Got it? Thank you. Before hanging up, Barry's colleague suddenly asked, Wade, if you care about Barry so much, why did you deliberately say such nasty things to drive him away? I paused and whispered, You know about us? The man hesitated for a while and told the truth. Not only me, but everyone in our department knows that Barry never hides anything. His phone is full of your photos, and he always talks about his brother wherever he goes. We've known for a long time that he likes you. Even when he was waking up from a coma, he was still reminding me not to forget to wish you a happy new year and to let you know that you are safe. Anyone with eyes can see how much he cares about you. Wade, can't you really give him a chance? The melodious opera on the Spring Festival Gala covered up the tears that silently rolled down my eyes. Thank you for telling me this. I blinked, my vision blurry. Please tell Barry that I'll wait for him to come home. I pushed him away because I didn't want to delay his happiness. But if separation only makes both people more miserable, then the so-called fulfillment is meaningless. When Barry returned home, spring was already in the air. I went to the airport to pick him up and took him home, and looked at him carefully. She had lost a lot of weight, her hair had grown long enough to be tied into pigtails, her cheeks were sunken, and her lips were slightly pale. He looked like a sickly person who had just recovered from a serious illness. Sitting on the sofa, he raised his eyes and looked at me cautiously. The spoiled and lawless child before now carefully observed my expression and dared not speak loudly. I turned my back sadly so that he wouldn't see the tears in my eyes. It's good that you're back. I'll take good care of you. You've only been let loose for half a year, and you've ruined yourself like this. Barry stood up and followed me. Brother, have you forgiven me? I went into the kitchen and fiddled with the pots and pans, pretending to be busy. Well, there's no grudge between us, it's not a big deal. Then you asked your colleagues to tell me that you would wait for me to go home. Is that what I understood? The gas stove was turned on with a bang, and I pursed my lips towards the jumping flames. What do you understand? Give me a chance and try to accept me. Barry came up to me from behind and put his arms around my waist. The familiar body temperature warmed my back and my heart started beating faster. The words that I had decided to say long ago suddenly became hot when they came to my lips, and I blushed with embarrassment. I touched his hand. Barry, I want to. Barry's hand avoided me and reached to the gas stove to turn off the fire. Brother, you haven't washed the vegetables yet, it's a bit early to start the fire. His lips accidentally brushed my earlobe. Your heart is beating so fast, why are you panicking? On purpose. That naughty kid must have done it on purpose. I turned around in frustration, only to find that he had already approached me and trapped me in his arms. Brother, what do you think? I really was wrong just now. It was true that Barry was carefully observing my expression, but as soon as he saw that I was soft-hearted, his tail immediately stuck up again. He pressed me against the stove, held my waist with his palms, pressed our chests together, and rubbed our ears against each other. Why aren't you talking, Wade? Even calling him by his name, you bold boy. I made up my mind, raised my hands to hold Barry's face, and kissed him hard on the lips, taking the initiative. I want to date you. Damn, the young grass is right in front of my mouth. The old cow, should eat it. Barry chuckled and pried open my teeth easily, turning defense into offense. His palms slid from my lower back to the front of my body, kneading it gently, and I subconsciously let out a muffled groan. Brother, you took the initiative to provoke me this time, so you are not allowed to regret it. The buttons on his chest were open, leaving a circle of teeth marks on his collarbone. I tilted my head back, digging my fingers into his dark hair. No regrets. I will continue to be entangled with you for the next 20 years. Or wait until you get tired of it. Either the sea dries up and the rocks crumble.